And thank you for joining us this evening for Voices That Matter, a parent's guide to SPP APR Indicator 8. I'm really glad you're here this evening. If you can, if you want to, in the chat box, let us know. Maybe if you feel like sharing what district you're from, or what brings you here this evening. We'd love to hear from you. And also we will have a Q&A session. So if you have questions throughout the presentation this evening, feel free to drop your questions in the chat box and we will be sure to get to them. As I mentioned, my name is Stephanie Babbitts, and I am a project coordinator on the New Jersey Family Engagement Hub. Specifically, I work with parent groups under START for the hub. So let's talk first a little bit about SPAN. SPAN is the parent center for the state of New Jersey. We provide information, technical assistance, resources, and support for families. Our mission is to empower families and inform and involve professionals and others interested in the healthy development and education of children to enable them to become fully participating and contributing members of our communities and society. For more information about SPAN, please visit www.spanadvocacy.org. And we have about 45 programs that cover everything from education, health and mental health, human services, childcare, and child welfare. We extend to over 40 national, regional, and local programs funded by government agencies, foundations, and fee-for-service contracts. This presentation this evening is being brought to you by the Hub. So the Hub serves as a resource for everyone. We support families, schools, professionals, youth, and communities in building and strengthening partnerships for family engagement. Our goal is to enhance systemic and effective family engagement policies, programs, and activities, leading to improvements in student development and academic achievement. We are committed to serving as a centralized information hub on family engagement, informing educators, practitioners, and families about the latest educational opportunities and barriers by providing technical assistance, resources, and support on effective family engagement policies, practices, and activities that lead to improvements in student development, academic achievement, and long-term success. We provide parents and caregivers with easy-to-understand, usable information to solve present-day problems. We provide youth with a voice to share their experiences and ideas to support their continued academic success. And finally, we enhance parent and family capacity to effectively work with schools and professionals to meet children's needs. So our agenda for this evening. So I'm going to provide an overview of state performance plans and annual performance reports. So you probably see this SPP APR, but really don't understand it. So tonight I'm going to demystify that for you and give a breakdown and explain what that means. I'm going to hone in and dig a little bit deeper into talking about Indicator 8. And I'm going to give an overview of Indicator 8, the impact of Indicator 8 and its significance. And then also, finally, what the role of a CPAG and parent group can play in survey completion and engagement. So let's talk first about state performance plans and annual performance reports, which is the SPP APR. So the state performance plan is a long-term plan, usually 6 years, that each state creates. So it sets goals for improving special education, identify key areas to measure, which is called indicators, and outline strategies to improve outcomes for students with disabilities. The annual performance report is the yearly update on that plan. So each year, the state reports on how it performed on each indicator, whether it met its targets, and what improvements or changes are needed. The purpose of the state performance plan and the annual performance report is to evaluate how states implement IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and measure their progress in improving outcomes for children with disabilities. Submitted annually, these reports track performances on 17 plus key indicators, and we're going to talk about them in further detail, but things like graduation, dropout rates, assessment rates. This is to ensure compliance with federal requirements, identify areas needing improvement or intervention, and report progress publicly. Simply put, SPP APR is how the state tracks how well schools are supporting students with disabilities and how they use family feedback to make things better. So you want to think of SPP, so the state performance plan, as the state's roadmap for improving special education systems and results. And your APR, which is your annual performance report, is the progress report on the roadmap. So each of those things, as I mentioned before, measure what's called indicators. So what are indicators? So indicators are like report card categories for the entire special education system. So just like a student might have grades in reading, math, and science, the state has indicators like graduation, parent involvement, things like that. Each one shows how schools are doing in that specific area. And indicators give families a way to see what's working and where change is needed. Essentially, they turn parent voice and student outcomes into data that drives decisions at the state and district level. So again, if you look more closely here at these indicators, you'll see performance indicators. So performance indicators measure child and family outcomes. So the state sets targets for result indicators. So indicators, I'm going to talk about them in further detail in just a moment. We have indicators 1 through 8, 14, 15, 16, and 17. They are performance indicators. Compliance indicators measure compliance with requirements set forth in IDEA. So OSEP, the Office of Special Education Program, sets the target, and the target for indicators, and we'll talk about them in a minute, for 9 and 10 is 0%. Target for remaining compliance indicators is 100%. And this includes indicators 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So sounds like a lot right now, but I'm going to break this down into simpler terms. So performance indicators. So performance indicators, as I mentioned, there's performance and compliance. Performance indicators, that talks about how well the system is working. These indicators look at results and outcomes for students with disabilities and their families. So you want to think of it this way. Are students benefiting? Are things improving? So it's looking at the performance. And this is some of the things that performance indicators measure. Student achievement, so reading, math, graduation rates, inclusion, so time spent in general education, your post-school outcomes like college and employment, and family engagement, which is indicator 8, which we're going to talk about much more deeply in a little bit. So again, as an example for indicator 8, it measures how schools support families to be meaningfully involved in their child's education. Okay. So performance indicators tell us if what schools are doing is actually working for students and families. Now, compliance indicators, that shows us whether the system is following the law. So these indicators focus on legal requirements under IDEA. So you want to think of it as, are schools doing what they are required to do? So this is the compliance, right? So compliance versus performance. So what they measure, these indicators measure your timelines. So evaluations completed on time, proper IEP implementation, transition planning requirements, procedural safeguards. These are your compliance indicators. So looking at them a little bit more closely, so let's take a look at some of these indicators. So we have indicators that look at secondary success. So, I know, I'm sure Alexis has been dropping some links. So you can actually see, we dropped some information about what SPP means and APR means. So indicator 1 is your graduation, and that's the percentage of students with IEPs who graduate with a regular high school diploma. So that's indicator 1. The impact on students for this indicator, this signals whether students are being supported to meet academic standards and successfully transition to adulthood. Indicator 2 is the dropout indicator, and that is the percentage of students with IEPs who drop out of high school. And the impact here is that it highlights disengagement and unmet needs. High rates suggest students are not receiving the support they need to stay in school. Indicator 14 is post-school outcomes. So what students are doing after high school, such as employment, college, training. This measures real-world success and effectiveness of transition planning. So these are those indicators that are looking at secondary success. Next, there's indicators for achievement. So indicator 3 is the assessment indicator, and that's state testing. That's participation and proficiency of students with disabilities on state assessments. The impact on students, it shows whether students are accessing grade level curriculum and making academic progress. Indicator 7 are your preschool outcomes. So growth in social emotional, knowledge and skills and behavior for preschoolers. The impact is that it measures whether early intervention is actually helping children make meaningful progress. Next, for your indicators is LRE. So indicator 5 looks at least restrictive environment, where students are educated, so general education versus separate setting. The impact is that it measures access to inclusive environments. More time in general education equals a greater opportunity for peer interaction and grade level learning. Indicator 6 is preschool LRE, and that's the placement of preschool children with disabilities in inclusive early learning setting. Impact on students: early inclusion builds foundational skills and prepares children for kindergarten success. And you can find the results of these indicators. Again, if you go on the state website, you can take a look at this information, and that's all part of the resources. You will be provided with resources at the conclusion of tonight's workshop, and which will include links to where you can find this information. Another indicator is a few indicators are on equity. So indicator 4 is suspension and expulsion. So the rates of disciplinary removals, especially over 10 days, and disparities by race and ethnicity. So the impact on students reflects school climate and behavioral supports. High rates can mean lost instructional time and inequities. Indicator 9, disproportionate representation, and that looks at the overrepresentation of certain racial ethnic groups in special education. The impact on students is that this identifies potential bias or systemic inequities in identification. And indicator 10, disproportionality in disability categories, whether certain groups are over-identified in specific disability categories. The impact on students is that it ensures students are accurately identified and not mislabeled. And compliance. So we have compliance indicators. Indicator 11 is child find. Is the district our evaluations are completed within required timelines? So this is an important one. The impact on students: if there's delays, there's delay in services. Timely evaluations ensure students get help when they need it. Indicator 12, early childhood transition. Are students making a smooth transition from early intervention, so from Part C to Part B? The impact on students: it prevents gaps in services during those critical developmental years. And then secondary transition, indicator 13, looks at whether IEPs, so ages 14 to 16, include appropriate transition goals and services. The impact on students: this prepares students for life after college, for college, career, and independent living. So there's a lot of information I just provided to you, but again, you can take a look and see how your district has performed on these indicators. What we're here about to talk and look at more deeply this evening is indicator 8, which is the parent involvement indicator. So this, and a link should be dropped. This is a link to where you can find, this is a resource from the New Jersey Department of Education, which highlights it's like a one-page guide on parent involvement, and it talks a little bit about the definition, what the focus question is, and I'm gonna do a deeper dive on this in a moment. So essentially, indicator 8 and parent involvement is asking, are parents and families engaged and satisfied with the special education supports and services for their students? So the way that they calculate the data that they get from the results of this survey is they're looking at, it's measuring the percent of parents with a child receiving special education services who report that schools facilitated parent involvement as a means of improving services and results for children with disabilities. So how does that look? So it's looking at the number of parents who report schools use parent and family engagement to improve services divided by the total number of respondent parents of children with disabilities. You multiply that by 100, and that's how you start to get the results of this survey that is then shared with school districts. So that is how they break it down. And again, that one pager gives you other examples and shows you how the math is done. So what does 8 actually measure? It's not just, did the school invite you to the meeting, right? It looks at whether families feel, are they included in IEP decision making? Are they seen respected as partners? Are they given useful information? Are parents supported in helping their child succeed? It's a perception-based indicator, so it captures the family experience. Again, it's that performance one, right? It's not just compliance. It holds states and districts accountable. It drives funding priorities, improvement efforts, and includes the family voice, right? So it helps identify where systems are working and where they're not. So how does this look in New Jersey? So in New Jersey, the parent survey is distributed each year. So every year, and what we're going to do is Alexis will drop a link to a you can see where you are in cohorts. There's different cohorts each year, and you'll see a list of school districts that are in cohorts. Right now, we are in cohort 20, and I'm going to talk about cohort 20 in a moment. The parent survey is distributed each year. Multiple languages are available to parents of students with disabilities who are in a current cohort of school districts, which does include charter schools located throughout the state. Every New Jersey district participates in this study as a member of a cohort approximately once every 6 years. So that's they're supposed to cycle through every 6 years and that each school district has a chance every 6 years to complete the survey to be chosen to be part of the cohort. Individual responses to the survey are anonymous and confidential. So in New Jersey, the Blaustein Center is partners with the Department of Education on the administration of this survey. So the Blaustein Center at Rutgers develops and distributes a survey to the families in the school districts. They ensure the survey is statistically valid and representative, and they collect and analyze the responses. They provide the information to the New Jersey Department of Education, who uses the results for federal reporting as part of Indicator 8. So they're doing the reporting. They share the data with the school district, and they identify areas for improvement in family engagement. So to break it down, the Department of Education sets the requirement and the purpose, and Blaustein Center is designing and administering the survey. So the New Jersey Department of Education is required to ask families about their experiences in special education. And they're partnering with the Blaustein Center, an independent research group, to run the survey so the results are accurate, fair, and truly reflect the family voices in New Jersey. And here's just a sample, and you can find this on the Department of Ed website too, a sample of Indicator 8, this parent engagement, parent involvement survey. So it's sample questions. So it's broken down and I don't know if you can see it, but some questions on here are things like, I am considered an equal partner with teachers and other professionals in planning my child's program. All of my concerns and recommendations were documented on the IEP. I have been asked for my opinion about how well special education services are meeting my child's needs. My child's evaluation report is written in terms I understand. Written information I receive is in an understandable way. Teachers are available to speak with me. These are some of those questions that are on there. So it's breaking it down by schools' effort to partner with parents, teachers and administration, and ask some questions there, and it asks questions about the school. So this is your opportunity to really take a look at this and to answer these questions. And again, this is available in multiple languages, this survey, and also the information is anonymous. So that too. There's also a supplemental parent survey to this, and it's going to be more robust next year. Okay, so for the 2026, for cohort 21, which still hasn't been determined yet, for cohort 21, there's going to be many more actual questions where you can write things in. There's going to be a list of questions, of additional questions. For this year, there's just a few. There's I think 3 of them, but let me talk about that in a moment. Designed to expand on the Indicator 8 topics, so there's a supplemental parent survey, which is used to gather deeper, more specific feedback about families' experiences, to ensure voices from underrepresented groups are included, and to help districts hear from families who might otherwise be missed. So the supplemental survey allows your parent group to bring real data to the table, not just anecdotes, right? To identify priority issues for families and to partner with the district on solutions that are grounded in evidence. So this aligns directly with that advisory role of a CPAG. It's moving from feedback to collective input and collective impact. So the supplemental parent survey contains 3 questions and is only for individuals who complete the online survey. So there's this indicator 8, this parent survey that goes out, and I'm going to talk about the timeline in a moment. There's snail mail version, so there's families who are getting hard copies of this survey. You can complete it with a hard copy. There's a self-addressed stamped envelope. You can mail it out, or you could do the online version. So when you do the online version, there's that sample, like that sample survey I just showed you, and then there's 3 additional questions, and it's available in 11 different languages. So as I mentioned, there's going to be a new improved supplemental survey that's going to be going out next year in 2027, which will provide even more opportunities to gather additional feedback from families. So why should you care about this? Well, Indicator 8 is your voice. It's one of the only federal measures that directly asks, are schools truly partnering with families? In New Jersey, think about it. This kind of parent involvement, this kind of survey, your response can help shape district practices. Your voice can influence state level decisions, and your input can drive real change in family engagement. Parents' responses to the survey questions will provide important information to help the state and district determine how schools support parental involvement in their child's program. So it is vital, and you should care. It's important, right? So looking at the timeline here for this. So if you got that link and you're looking at the different cohorts and you're looking to see if your school district is in the cohorts, if you look at cohort 19, that was for this year. That was for last year, 2024, 2025. Last year, the 2024-2025 cohort 19, that survey went out this May, on Friday. So is May 1st. So coming up in May, districts are going to be getting their survey results from Indicator 8. So the school districts are going to be getting their survey results from cohort 19. Okay. This summer, late spring, early summer of this year, the New Jersey Department of Education, Office of Special Education, will be setting up office hours and sessions with school districts who are in cohort 19 to go over results where there was more than 20 responses. Okay. So I wanted to share that's important information you should know. So what can a parent group do? What can your CPAG do if you're in cohort 19? Well, I would be requesting a meeting to discuss the results. I would say, hey, school district, hey, director, I understand we were in cohort 19. We would like to have a meeting, or we'd like to talk about the results of the parent involvement indicator 8, and review the information together and collaboratively discuss solutions. So again, thinking about looking at that cohort 19, if your school district was in that cohort 19. Now, if you are in cohort 20, which is going on now this year for 2025-2026 school year, which we're almost done with, this month, again, starting in May, I'm already moving ahead. So moving to May, mailings about the survey will be going out late May. So mailings include, as I said, email, snail mail. So there is going to be mailings going out in May for cohort 20 to say, hey, there's an indicator 8 parent involvement survey. Your feedback's important. You need to fill out the survey. So June through August is the window for completing the survey. And that's so again, throughout the summer months, throughout June, July, and August, concluding around Labor Day is when, families can fill out that survey. Additional correspondence occurs the Department of Education will be getting information from Blaustein. They'll be looking at the response rates, and they may say, let's add another email, let's boost, maybe if they're not getting a lot of responses, they'll say let's do another outreach. So outreach may be by phone or email at the discretion and execution of Blaustein, so they'll help in assisting that, again, to get the word out, to get parents to fill out the survey. So that, and if your school district is in cohort 20, you should start to see emails and communication going out in May to say that there's, to start filling out completing the survey. So with that, I do want to talk about the role that a CPAG has in really getting this information out and how a parent group can help with sharing out and making sure that school districts and that parents are filling out the survey. So I have a few recommendations, a few suggestions, and I have a resource that's going to accompany these strategies. I have like sample messaging and examples of things that you can do. It's really important that your CPAG, again, build that partnership with the school district on making sure that you're doing as a CPAG or as a parent group what you can to get the word out. So I would say first is to make indicator 8 feel very relevant and not bureaucratic. So most parents ignore surveys because maybe they just feel like it's another form. What is this going to do? But as a CPAG move, you could reframe the messaging here. So maybe say things as a CPAG, send out a message to your families to say, hey, this survey tells the state if your voice is being heard. This impacts how schools improve services for your child. If you don't respond, decisions get made without parent input. So keeping it simple, impactful, and tied to the child's experience. So really using your voice here. And so that's just one example. Using the trusted parent to parent outreach. I think it's really important when we look at like the purpose of a CPAG is one of the many purposes is building community, right? And so for families to also feel like they are connecting with other families. So using that really trusted parent to parent outreach. Families are more likely to respond when the message comes from another parent instead of the district. So a CPAG move here, personal posts in your parent groups, in your Facebook groups, your social media, a text chain, or if you're in a WhatsApp group, a quick video from your CPAG saying, hey, I filled out this form. It took me, 2 minutes to do. This aligns with research that engagement improves when parents feel like partners, when you're really building that partnership and doing that parent to parent outreach. Create an awareness campaign. Parents often don't respond because they think it's long or complicated. Again, it's available in 11 languages, which is really great for accessibility. So as CPAG, what you can do, show a screenshot of the survey so they know so they have that visual, right? And they know what to look out for. Share something like, hey, it took me less than 5 minutes. And again, you want to highlight it's anonymous. Your name is not attached to it. And this removes 2 fears, time and fear, right? So fear that maybe if they share it, that it's them, maybe fear of retaliation or something like that. This takes that away. So it's truly anonymous. Build in existing touch points. So don't treat indicator 8 as a separate initiative. Embed it everywhere. So here's how you can integrate it. Mention it at your CPAG meetings. So again, once we know when the cohorts are there, once we know when your cohorts are, I feel like earlier this school year is when they announced the cohorts. So if you go in and you look and you see your cohort, start putting it into your messaging. Mention it at a CPAG meeting. Hey, parents, be on the lookout. This is a big deal. Indicator 8, we're going to be asked to complete this survey. We're going to meet with administration to review the results. This is exciting. It really gives an opportunity for parents' voice to be heard. You can add it to IEP workshops if you add it to a slide, or a parent academy events or resource fairs, really mentioning it and getting it out there at those existing touch points. So if you receive the survey, complete it tonight, that kind of thing. So really getting the word out. And then partnering strategically with the district. This is where CPACs can be really powerful. It's about being collaborative and taking that collaborative but influential approach. So you can ask the district to include CPAC messaging in your emails. Share the survey link multiple times, not just once. So maybe again, coming directly from your CPAC, and send reminders in multiple languages. Offer to co-create messaging. So even if you want to get involved as a CPAG, co-create messaging that's parent friendly, not overly formal. Districts are responsible for the distribution of this survey, but CPAGs can help drive the engagement and the quality of that engagement. And then ensuring that all families participate. So response rates can often miss your multilingual families, maybe families without some tech access, or families who just feel disconnected, your families who are on the fringe that just feel disconnected in general. So as a CPAG, focusing on some equity strategies here, maybe see and ensure that there is translated messaging that's going out, printing flyers for backpacks or at events, right? And then if there's partnering with organizations, faith-based groups, community organizations, after-school programs, partnering with them, again, to really ensure that all families are participating. This directly strengthens your indicator 8 quality. So not just the quantity, but also the quality of the feedback and the of who's completing indicated the survey. And then turning results into action. So most parents never see what happens after a survey. And as a parent myself, I find that to be extremely frustrating. And for me, it's also a reason why I often say, why am I going to complete this survey? Nothing ever comes out of it. I never know what happens. Well, let's turn that around. A leadership move here for your parent group is to ask the district to share those indicator 8 results publicly. Host a what we heard from families session. So use those results to guide your CPAG priorities. So again, if you're in that cohort 19 and you're getting those results in May, that could be an opportunity to talk about what is it for your CPAG planning over the summer going into next year, creating goals. What are some things that came out of it? And informing district recommendations. I think that's a great opportunity. That's even an opportunity to talk about at a Board of Ed meeting, to even talk about what were some of the results from Indicator 8. And this closes that loop and builds that trust, and it builds that collaboration with your CPAG. So it's really about turning the results into action. And that is Indicator 8. So where there's resources, and like I said, I have a sample flyer that's in that's going to be in the resource folder for you that has information and will give you some sample messaging and kind of talks about all of these different touch points. So I am going to take questions now. While I'm doing that, you can complete the survey. So let's see. Any questions? Let me see. Let me scroll down here. Oh, good. Did it last year. Awesome. Yeah. So it's like every 6 years. So that's how this works. To my team, do you see questions? I don't see any at the moment. And then as we kind of wrap up here, if you take a moment and fill out the evaluation, I would greatly appreciate it. And feel free to reach out to me